This is a call to order for the July Historic Preservation Commission meeting. It's Wednesday, July 2nd, 6 p.m. Can I get a roll call, please?
Chairman Evan Goodwin.
Here.
Vice Chairman Philip Hall.
Here.
Commissioner Carlita Frazier. Here. Commissioner Jim Hess. Commissioner Tim Probst. Commissioner Debbie Wonder. Here. Commissioner Lisa Solka. Here.
Okay. Notice regarding adjournment. The Historic Preservation Commission will not hear new items after 9:30 p.m. unless authorized by a majority vote of the commission members present. Items which have not been heard before 9:30 may be continued to the next regular meeting or a special meeting date is determined by the commission members. We are going to look at the minutes. I'm looking for an adoption of it. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the minutes are approved. Do we have any public comment?
Yes. Nikki Graziani. We did it.
Hello, HPC. Thank you for your time this evening. I'm here representing the Historic Bluffton Foundation. My name is Nikki Graziani. I'm the operations manager of the Hayward House. We are here to state about 34 Thomas Hayward and the condition of the house and demolishing that house. And we have fully read the staff report and in full agreement with the staff report based on the structural deterioration, mold, water damage. It's been deemed an unhealthy indoor environment, and then the property and the home being unable to be insured. Those are significant reasons to support the demolition of that house. The only thing the HBF is asking for in this regard, and I've talked to Mr. Alexander about this, is we would like the ability to obtain architectural drawings and photographs in detail to hold in our archives in perpetuity for future use and opportunities of reconstruction and education. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Then we are going to move on to old business. This is a COFA for 15 Meriwether Court.
All I saw was the folder that you had. So that's open.
Slotton. I'm sorry. Is it not in here?
I didn't see one in the DMS folder. All you had was a separate folder for 15 Meriwether.
Let me, open up my computer real quickly and get to that. I apologize.
Let me take care of this. This is going to take me a moment. I apologize. I thought I had it uploaded in the right place. Apparently I do not.
We've already approved the minutes and the agenda, I guess. Is there a way to move one of the new business items up?
If probably the quickest one would be 89 Bridge.
Okay.
To do that. Sam feels ready to do that.
Can you make a motion on that?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're gonna skip ahead to 89 Bridge Street.
Okay.
Oh, and I'm gonna have to recuse myself from this one, actually. All right. but just in case.
Sure.
We're unruly.
Okay, good evening. This evening I'm representing the application, or excuse me, I'm presenting the application for Certificate of Appropriateness Historic District for the structure located at 89 Bridge Street. The application is represented tonight by Mrs. Amanda Denmark of Pierce Scott Architects. The request is the applicant Amanda Denmark of Pierce Scott Architects, on behalf of the owner, Jamie and Alan Oliver, requests the Historic Preservation Commission approve the following application: a certificate of appropriateness historic district to allow renovation and conversion of an existing single-family residence into a bookstore with associated icery located at 89 Bridge Street. The property is located in the Old Town Bluffton Historic District and zoned Neighborhood Conservation Historic District. The property is located here at 89 Bridge Street, in the vicinity of the intersection of Wharf and Bridge Streets and the Oyster Factory Park. This is the structure currently. I will draw your attention to, so you can see my cursor here, this front portion here, this enclosed portion that faces Bridge Street. Also here, another view. Get ahead of myself here. So the existing structure is currently a single-family residence of approximately 1,418 square feet and classified as an additional building type in the Neighborhood Conservation Historic District zoning district. This project's preliminary development plan was reviewed by the Town of Bluffton's Planning Commission on June 25th, 2025, and approved as submitted. Here is the current site plan, or excuse me, the existing site plan on the right. The proposed, excuse me, the existing on the left, proposed on the right. Major exterior changes include on the left here, they would like to remove this exterior door, remove this exterior window, and remove this front porch area that we just showed a second ago. Currently, this is a storage area. It used to be a front porch, and so they walled it in and have used it to store stuff. The proposed changes are to replace and widen the rear door for ADA accessibility, to include, or to add a new window here along the front elevation, replace or add a new door here, replace this window as said a second ago, and to reconstruct the front of this front porch area. Again, the current elevations, removing this front porch enclosure, removing this window, replacing this door, and removing this window as well. This being along the front elevation. See, this is from the right. This is the rear ADA accessible area. And again, removing the front portion. No changes to the rear elevation. What the proposed elevations will look like, we'll go to the side here first. To remove this front storage area and reconstruct a front porch area, I guess, and with these two double doors here, it's matched on both sides with single pane windows for a storefront. Replace this with a more appropriate side entry door, and to add this window portion here. No changes to the rear elevation, as I said before. And I'm sorry I did not highlight this rear door. They will replace this one with a wider, more ADA-friendly door. This is the landscape plan. These are your review criteria. Staff finds this plan to be in conformance with all numbers except for number 2. Staff recommendations, number 1, first of all, to identify the window and door finish material to be used to show compliance with UDO section 5.15.6.I. Number 2 is to provide a landscape plan to show the minimum 75% tree canopy lot coverage requirement has been met per UDO 5.3.3.g.1. Here are your actions for this evening. And I'll open up to any questions, concerns, comments.
Do we have any questions for staff? All right, thank you. Is the applicant present and would like to present? Please state your name for the record.
My name is Amanda Denmark. I'm with Pierce Scott Architects, and the owners are Alan and Jamie Oliver, and they are looking to add a bookstore to our neighborhood. So I'll let them kind of tell a little bit about what your project consists of. And I'm putting her on the spot. She wasn't expecting this. This is her project.
Hi there, we're just adding an independent bookstore to Bluffton. It would be a community space for people to come together. We want to have lots of community events, author signings, and just a place for community together. We want to put an icery on the side just to help keep traffic going in the summer months. And we are all missing the ice cream in Old Town Bluffton. It's disappeared a couple years ago. So that's kind of what we're doing. We have an odd little house right now, and what we want to do is really add a front porch to it, add some landscaping to it, remove a parking structure that's really quite ugly in the back, and hopefully just kind of spruce it up a little bit and
Bring some life into it.
yes.
So the main part was just that front porch area. Currently, they used it as a golf cart maybe area. It looked like it used to be a front porch, and then they closed it in. So we're just taking that back to being a front porch, putting doors and shop front windows. And then the other windows that we're doing are just replacing and matching. The two on the front, we're just matching the same ones that are on the front. The doors, we're just replacing with new doors with light and making sure they are ADA accessible. And then on the right side where their little tiny window is, where the icery would go, just making that opening a little bit larger. So.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the applicants? The windows, are those aluminum clad or?
Some of them, there's a mixture on the building.
Okay,
Currently, on the building, probably 80% of them are clad. I think there's 2 in the back. There was some addition added prior to us that are vinyl, but they're on the rear elevation. You can't see them.
Still will be using Marvin clad windows.
okay. And that's just a note on the plan. That's easy to address in the landscape. I'm assuming you guys
Yeah,
are
they have that. They've
fine
got
with
the
addressing it.
GRC with that, so.
Okay. Anything else from anyone?
I appreciate you coming without as many conditions on this staff report, so thank you for being prepared.
The fun project is an interesting reimagination of that home, so
So
It's going to look a lot better. Yeah.
It's nice to be able to take some of our old buildings and do something nice.
Culture reuse on that, yeah, that's a very positive way. So.
all right. Do we have would anybody like to make a motion?
I will make a motion if I can find it.
Sure.
It's usually right there. I would, the 2 conditions have been satisfied, y'all.
I think we just need to include those, but they will be able to address them.
So I make a motion that we approve this application to include the identification of the window and door finish material that is in compliance with the UDO and to provide a landscape plan to show the minimum 75% tree canopy lot coverage.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Project has been approved. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go back to 15 Meriwether.
Do you want me to begin?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for that. I got distracted in the process of uploading it and thought I had. Again, this is 15 Meriwether Court, and this was previously heard at the June 11th HPC meeting and was tabled to allow the applicant an opportunity to address 13 conditions. And this is a request to allow construction of a two-story single-family residence, which is an additional building type, approximately 1,637 square feet with an attached carriage house. It is located within the Landon Oaks development. And here is the property. You see with the star on it, that little cul-de-sac circular area, that is Landon Oaks. These are photographs that were provided by the applicant. Staff took some additional photographs today, and you can see here on the left, the property towards the front of the property is somewhat cleared. The large tree here is a 34-inch live oak, which is proposed to be retained. There is some above-ground utilities that do not show up on the plans or the landscape plan, and so that would be one of the conditions we would want to add tonight. The photograph here, there's some, looks like some vegetative debris that's on the property. And this little pink person right here in the back is from our watershed department. I took this photo standing at the street, so I just wanted to give you some sense of proximity to where the ditch is located. And by the ditch, the culvert, so here's a landscape plan. Let me give you a little perspective here regarding the pictures I was just discussing. So this is the revised landscape plan, and it looks a little busy. The entirety is here on the left. Blown up here is a bit more. This is the footprint of the house, the proposed carriage house, and the porch that will connect the two. The revised landscape plan does not show that the stairs that you discussed last time have actually been extended to go across the entirety of the front porch. So that would be need to be corrected. And the little red portions that you see here, let me go forward here to the survey. I think this will help if I show you this survey. So here's a little bit better perspective. The 34-inch oak that I was talking about is located here. There is a drainage easement, and then this black line here is top of the bank. So the Verdier Cove ditch is open on a portion of the property, and then it's piped in this area located here. So I want to go back and show you. Again, it's a little busy, but this dotted line here would be the easement. And you can see it appears that a portion of the house might actually be located within the easement. I've discussed this with the applicant today. They believe that it is not, but I just wanted to point that out. These other portions here are not within the easement, but are very close to the top of the bank. And again, this is an engineering issue, not necessarily something that we look at. I did discuss it with Watershed. Their concerns with the ditch. They did indicate to me that there is some active erosion within that ditch, and Beaufort County has not maintained it since that big storm, I believe it was Helene. However, they have scheduled it for maintenance for this fiscal year. So there may be a possibility that some of the vegetation within that area might be removed in order for them to get to that ditch to maintain it. So I did want to bring that up. These are the elevations. There have been some changes made, as I indicated. This is the front elevation, and the stairs now will extend across the front porch. They did remove the hog wire fence and the railing that was there previously. And I'll just go quickly through this. There were some concerns regarding the windows in the rear of the main house. You can see they added these two double windows here that are shown to be the same height as the windows to the right. Overall, it appears the windows have remained, the other windows have remained in the same locations. Here is the carriage house, the rear. The doors have been changed. The service area, the HVAC units are permitted underneath stairs. A previous condition indicated that they were not. Residential HVAC units can be located underneath the stairs, commercial cannot. And this is coming from our building safety department. So I just want to quickly go through the elevations that were provided to us. We can come back to anyone if it's it's necessary. So there are 4 criteria that would need to be considered as part of the review tonight. And all of them, 1, 3, and 4, are compliant with the criteria. And there's some conditions that remain that do not conform, and I do want to go over those. And so the applicant did respond to the July 11th conditions, and I've indicated in red how they've responded. Just very quickly here, the wall materials were not identified on the revised plan, but they did indicate that it would be hardy, board and batten, and horizontal siding. Railing dimensions for the carriage house, they will add that as a detail. Regarding the windows, they were changed again to be more consistent. All of the fixed windows that were shown on the plan will be changed to casement windows, and there is an obscure glass window shown on the second floor of the front elevation that will be changed to a transparent window. Metal garage door, corner board dimensions will be corrected and the material provided. The retaining wall, we weren't certain if one would be required. They've indicated that it's not proposed at this time. The louvered skirting detail has been provided on the plan. Regarding the carriage house, they've indicated screening details for the service yard. Again, that location is fine. The HVAC units underneath the stairs. They will provide mesh screening for the porch details. They have provided the 75% tree canopy coverage. They've updated their landscape plan, but again, they did not show the extended stairs, and they will need to show the above-ground utility box. The tree removal permit, that's not a necessarily requirement. We always indicate this whenever there are trees that are 14 inches or greater, DBH. And they have removed the front porch railing. So these were the conditions from June 11th. And so our recommendation in reviewing what was provided, some of the details were still missing. And I'm trying to do this in a way that I hope makes sense, but the recommendations from staff are to update the plan, the revised plan once more, to show materials and/or dimensions for the following conditions from the June 11th meeting. And those were conditions 1, 2, 4, 5, and 8. 8 being the carriage house service yard details need to be provided. And 13, they need to identify on the plans the use of 6-gauge wire for the hog fence. So this is going back to slide 19. So kind of going back and forth. And if I need to go back, I'll be glad to. The second condition that staff recommends is revising the window schedule to show that all the fixed windows, which are not permitted on residential, be identified as casement, and that the obscure window be a transparent window. Updating the door schedule to show wood doors for the carriage house doors, and then to identify the door material for the patio door. 4, update the landscape plan to show consistency with the revised architectural plans. Again, the extended front porch stairs, the above-ground utilities, and the removal of any portion of the house that might be within the drainage easement. Again, we're not absolutely certain that where the house is. The applicant has indicated that it's not within the easement, but we will be certain that it is not. 5, this came from the July 11th meeting, provide a split rail fence at an appropriate distance around the 34-inch live oak in order to protect it during any sort of disturbance or construction. 6, submit a tree removal permit application. 7, if a retaining wall must be erected, a site feature permit should be submitted. And 8, we also recommend that gutters should be installed, and if they're provided, that they comply with the UDO. So there are 8 conditions that we are recommending this evening. So moving forward, you can approve as submitted, approve with the conditions suggested by staff, or deny the application. And I'm sure that you have questions, so I'm glad to answer anything.
Okay, let's start with questions for staff. We'll start at this end. Commissioner Solka?
Sure. I went out there this week, and that top, I mean, it is a very small lot, and I feel like this house has taken over every bit of buildable area, and I know we can count beyond the bank, but, the fact is, they can only build top of bank to the road. But I saw two things I wanted to ask you. You were talking about the utilities. On these site plans, I do not see notice of these tall, and I think the developer put them in, they're probably 30-foot crepe myrtles, maybe 25, 30-foot crepe myrtles. And looking at, I'm on attachment 4 on my screen. Okay, there you are. See right there where the stop sign is? Looking at the site plan that you might have to go back to, it feels like their lot actually goes almost to where that stop sign is. So are we keeping those crepe myrtles? And then on the other side of those bushes, there's a huge water main. And I don't know that that's it. I don't think it's top of bank or lower, because I wouldn't have been able to get down there. And I didn't see that noticed on any of the plans.
So I believe this area right here, where it's showing concrete, is that water main, right adjacent to Hayward, Thomas Hayward Street. Is that what you're referencing? So that's, this property right here is common area.
I don't see what you're,
So,
I just needed to see your mouse.
so right here is common area.
Okay, and I see that on the lot line. I just don't see it noted on there. I mean, the common area will remain the way it is.
And if you could pull up attachment 5, the actual survey is dated September 5th, 2018, so it is 7 years old and apparently missing information. And then the reason you weren't showing us the easement on, you were showing us the easement on the landscape plans and not the architectural plans, is that it is not shown at all on the architectural site plan, which seems pretty deficient for a site plan.
Yeah, it has been a little bit of a challenge. We've had to go back and forth. And again, that's how I ended up identifying, looking at the landscape plan, that there was a potential encroachment into the easement. That will need to be verified.
I noticed on a previous slide, it's regarding a retaining wall. It says no retaining wall proposed at this time. I too have been to this site, and it is a steep drop. And is this something that would need to be looked at by watershed, or?
It will go through our building permit department, or excuse me, our building safety department. And this is also something, given that there's an easement on the property, Beaufort County would have to take a look at as well.
Is part of that review process that the survey needs to be within like 2 or 3 years current?
I am not familiar with a year requirement. I will check on that, but yeah, that does make it somewhat more difficult because the property lines have been adjusted. Like you see here, it says property line to be abandoned, while the property lines have actually already been adjusted through a replatting process. And they were given a variance also to encroach 5 feet within a 10-foot side yard setback in order to help preserve the 34-inch oak. So I do understand your concern with the information that you've been giving. It's not completely clear.
Correct, which makes it hard to make a decision when you don't have clear information.
Would I hesitate to suggest perhaps the applicant may be of assistance with this.
Do we have any staff-specific questions before we move on to the applicants? Clarification questions?
Mainly, you had mentioned the utility, and use that in any motion, so I don't understand, you stopped at that, so we need to understand what that language is, but you or the applicant could talk about that. I mean, there is a huge water main on that lot, and I still don't see it on here, and it's on the west side of the bushes, so I feel like it's not in the common area, and I should have gone back by there today. And I took a picture of it, but it's just, it could be in the space where they're not building. I go back and I'll ask you this, maybe, Charlotte, the narrative has 1.5 story house, and I said this last month. And I did a little check today, and typically a 1.5 story has most of the second floor built into the roof. And this looks like and it's not, it's actually 75%, it's not a 50% up. It is not a 1.5 story house, and it's so big on that lot. And the county now, I mean, they can't start construction until the county looks at the bank. And I do want to make sure Stormwater knows if this passes that we believe if it's erosion, that means it's not a very stable bank. And we're putting a lot of house on a little bit of land. And any house, we could find a house that fits there. This house to me is just not the house for this lot. With the mass and scale, or what did you call it? You called it something. I'm going to get it. Don't tell me. Visual compatibility. As it's listed in the UDO, it just seems out of whack with the rest of the area at that lot. So I think that may be a staff question. Just wanted to make those points.
And I would agree with you. I think it indicated 1.5 stories on the application, but it is a 2-story house. That second floor is actually 8 feet, a little more than 8 feet, which qualifies as a full story.
Are there other questions for staff along that line? We have questions for the applicant. The applicant's here to present. Would they like to?
I would like to hear what the applicant.
Would the applicant like to present?
I'm happy to answer it. Good evening, Barry Bryant again. Questions?
I guess first up for the survey, do y'all have plans or have you started the process of getting an updated survey?
We will be updating the survey because I think also the top of bank needs to be defined now that they can actually see the top of bank. Because that was the old survey, and when we remove that vegetation, it actually gets a little more clear as to where that top of bank is.
You anticipate it moving up or back, or?
I think it's actually going to move back towards 34, towards the lot behind us.
Okay.
But that doesn't impact, because we're already outside the top of bank. And just one clarification, that landscape plan shows the roof, not the foundation.
Yeah.
So there is an 18-inch overhang on there.
Yeah, so it's probably up against it at the corner of each wall.
And as you may or may not know, we can't even pour the footers until we get a form board survey. And that form board survey is going to show whether or not we're in or out of that easement. So if we form it in the easement, we can't pour it anyway. We have to move it.
Okay.
And the water main question is, the water main is in the common area.
Okay.
It's not on the lot.
It is so confusing with this survey.
Well,
It's hard to tell
you
what the
have
lot
no
is.
idea how many times we had to go out there and stomp it out, even trying to find out where the property pin is, because we think it's in that palmetto tree that's over there. We couldn't even find the property pin.
Okay. It seems hard to have designed a house if you don't, on a lot that you don't know what parameters you have, you know?
Meaning, I think we do know what the parameter,
Well, you
if we don't
just
know
said
what
you
we're
don't know where
aware,
the
we're aware of
property
the lot
pin is.
lines, we're aware of the setbacks. We got a variance to get into that side setback so that we could get away from that big oak tree.
The top of the bank issue is the hardest one for me.
Me too.
We don't know what the soil report's gonna come to, and whether there's gonna be, what that will do to the back of the house, that's a little tough to rule on.
I guess my question is that an engineering issue or is that an HPC issue?
Well, it's an engineering issue first, but it will necessarily affect the look of the house, which is part of our purview. And I know that's hard because you have to have certain approvals to move forward to get engineering going, but it sounds like Beaufort County is gonna have that worked on this year. Do you know if we have to wait on Beaufort County to do anything about the top of bank or the ditch to get a new survey?
Shouldn't, no. But again, I guess I'm confused as to why, if the house is sited outside top of bank, anything that has to do with the stability of the lot or the soil or the bank, is that an HPC issue? Or is that an engineering issue? If something changes and the house can't be sited where it's proposed to be sited, and I don't know why it would, because the area of erosion that they're talking about, if you look at that landscape plan and where you have that, where it reads drainage easement and there's a line in the middle, that's where that erosion is. It is far away from where we have that house sited.
Are you pointing at the Hayward Street side of the house? Or I don't really, I
At
can't.
the bottom of the screen, right there, 30-foot drainage easement.
Yeah, where it reads drainage easement, that's
Right,
kind
oh,
of
I see that.
yeah. So, and our intention with this, as it was on the garage on lot 6, which was also extremely close to the top of bank, we sunk helical piles in there before we poured that slab to make sure that thing was in there good, and we're gonna do the same thing here. But again, none of this has anything to do with HPC, I don't think. If it does, I apologize, and please tell me how it.
No, and I think what we're doing is just expressing concern about it. That's not something
I
we could
get it,
add
and
as
I
a
have this,
condition.
right, I have the same concern, and certainly nothing's gonna go forward until, everybody else gets to sign off on it.
But at the same time, it'd be nice to see a site plan that has all of the pertinent information.
I
and shows the
could not
house,
agree more,
Besides just
and
taking your word on
yes,
easement.
you're correct.
We had a lot of comments last time on the state of the drawings, and you guys made an effort to change those, and we spent a bunch of time reviewing them last week. And we're here, and we still kind of don't really have drawings that are completely updated for that. And then, the easement issue pops up because it wasn't shown at all on any of the previous site plans.
Yeah, I just feel that we still don't have all the information that is needed to make a decision.
What information is missing as it relates to
If
historical
one
preservation?
thing, one outline that we're showing, the landscaping, where it shows the easement, but then we don't have an updated survey, and then the applicant himself saying they can't find the property pin, that's concerning.
And then how does that play into the historic preservation?
Well, how can you build on the
Well, I
property
mean,
if you don't even know where the?
Yeah. It's
Well,
architectural review. I mean, we don't want to go forward and approve the house to come back. I mean, if you had like a perfectly ready to go set of plans, it might be a different discussion, but, we're already kind of stretching what we were comfortable with in just having a letter with, here are all the answers to these things.
It's like your plans are based on information that's not complete.
My name is Howard Feldman. I think, I don't know, I mean, we did what we could from when we met the other day. Obviously, we're in a time crunch and we're trying to get things moving. As far as, not having the information, I mean, we're working from drawings. Whether I go out to the site and I can locate a pin in the ground, I think is, for the most part, kind of irrelevant, because I'm drawing and designing a house based on the drawings that we have, right? So the drawings that we have are the property lines, the setbacks, all of that stuff. And so everything's been worked around those constraints, right? So, I mean, we're recognizing that, like with the water line and all that, and I just don't know how to answer that question about, if we can't find a pin, how critical that is, and if that's something that could sideline progress of the whole thing.
And also the stability of the bank itself, because what if you need to move the house back? What if you have to adjust the square footage of the house because the bank is not stable where you're gonna have the house foundation?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so what you're asking is if the soil at the top of the bank and that isn't stable enough to hold the house?
I've been out there and I saw it
Continue construction.
myself, like, it is a steep drop, and that also seems like a watershed thing, like, what if watershed doesn't approve it or has conditions on this? Why would we approve plans when they could very well change?
Well, if you were approving, like,
I guess what, watershed, again, I'm trying to understand maybe not the function, but if we're trying to make sure that this home is historically appropriate for Old Town Bluffton, whether or not stormwater signs off or has conditions, I don't think changes the historic appropriateness of the structure.
Size it will.
Unless it has to, I mean, if it has to move or we start getting into setback issues, but even stormwater, I don't think has any say over where the house is sited. What they can say is you have to take certain steps to make sure that runoff isn't getting into the
Right, I mean,
drainage ditch and into wherever. I'm just trying to make sure we're not trying to solve issues that are already handled in the permitting process.
This board reviews all the architecture, the footprint, the landscape architecture, tree removals, everything. I mean, it's not just, is this a historic house? It's everything about it. And we're getting to the point where we're, one, sort of still frustrated with the state of the plans, and two, sort of realizing here that this is a, 7-year-old survey that's missing a lot of information on it, and the site plan doesn't show the easement, so.
And I think with the soil, I mean, you have to recognize that we're all assuming right now that everything is good and that the house can be built where it's sited. If we get in there and we start excavating the footers and everything falls away, obviously that's time to reevaluate, we stop, and I think what would happen if we have to make the house smaller or less, change the depth of the house, then we're right back here, or with,
Yeah, but I
you know,
mean,
to
you guys
deal with
just
that,
told
that's
us
when
that
we would deal with that
You guys
issue,
just
but-
told us that the top of bank has probably changed quite a bit since this survey.
Well, I think,
It's new information, and then you're not really showing us something accurate. I mean, and you're not showing the easement either.
Okay, I mean.
And we're trying to
yeah,
work with
no,
you guys.
I'm
We're
with
trying
you
to
there.
work with you guys, but the information has been
I mean,
rough.
this is the easement, we sat down, went through the plans just this week, and, I thought we had an understanding of where we.
Usually, the site plan is over the top of the survey and
And
not
it should
just
be
select
there.
elements
Yeah.
of the survey,
absolutely.
It should be.
Have you ordered the survey? Have you ordered the survey?
A new
Why would-
survey?
No.
Right. Why?
This is more of a design drawing, isn't it? From the civil engineer? Because the sidewalk's not there. I think we had that discussion a little bit on Monday as well.
I guess my problem is, well, I'll say it a third time, the 1.5 story in the narrative. That's what we were gonna build all along, which I was excited to see. And when I saw a true 2-story house, with a connected to the garage, so close to that top of bank, and then you mentioned the top of bank may change. I'll tell you, I think it did change. I'm not trying to be a survey guy. I'll stay in my lane, but it seems like it's gotten worse. I feel like it's closer to the buildable area. And then if you would have to come back, we have many applications and we're seeing you a third time with a whole new plan. So I think it falls on the applicant to make sure they have everything in place with a survey, because anything that changes that house, you're gonna have to come back here. I don't think it goes to HDRC. It'd have to come back to.
Not unless we approved it with conditions to do so.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm trying to stay in that lane. I think the window changes, they're all great, but I'm just stuck on the weight of that house on a very, very small buildable area. Very small. And I appreciate you wanting to keep that tree. But it just, these sites, they confuse me. Poor Charlotte, I'm sitting with her, I didn't even know what I was looking at. So I wish we would have had a true updated site plan with this, and you could truly see the top of bank, rather than do all this with conditions, and then you're gonna have to probably come back. And I can't imagine you starting building until the county addresses that erosion. That would be, and I don't know where that falls. That might be outside our purview. But I know how slow they move. So.
I mean, you seem to be very familiar with this whole top of bank. Can you tell me, like, how is it defined? Where is it defined? Who makes the decision?
That's determined by the surveyor.
The surveyor.
Purely a surveyor.
Yeah, because they're going out and they're looking at where the
That was, because that was my question for the longest time is there a set of coordinates that defines this? Did DHEC define this? And the answer became, no, the surveyor goes out there and says, here's the top of bank, right here.
It's really easy to see because it's the top and then it drops.
Right.
I mean, it is not a sloping bank by any means. And I think there is a house that will fit on this lot that you don't even have to worry about it. But I've always felt in these applications, I was asked to do an updated survey on a small project I had to do. So I just am a little confused why we should have addressed it last month and I just didn't notice it.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, back to the 1.5 versus 2, and this may be my understanding from previous staff, was that definition was 50% second floor area. Is that correct? So the second floor cannot exceed 50% of the first floor, and that's what defines a 1.5 versus a 2-story house?
That's kind of what I read, but your second floor is 75% of your.
Or maybe I'm
70, 70%, which is the other building type.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I said 50, I was probably, but we designed it to make sure we were under that ratio. And
right.
whatever that number is, if it's
Right.
80,
Yeah, and
if it's 70, if it's.
And I asked staff that, and everyone has now told me this is a 2-story, but it was always started to be a 1.5. And it just changes. And I've gone through town, I've found a dozen 1.5-story houses, and they do fit within the angle of the roof. It's not a true 2-story, with a roof. And specifically for this lot, because it's just so small. It's just a hard buildable lot, what you're trying to put on it. But I do think there is a house that could fit on it.
Yeah, and ratio is one thing that's dictated and very prescriptive, but massing and scale is a whole different one. It's kind of the only vague one we have in the UDO for the HPC to say, does it feel like it fits or not? And I think that's the concern that they're raising.
Do you think it doesn't fit or it doesn't feel because of what's behind the house? Is that what's driving that? I don't know that this
Size of the lot,
this is like the biggest lot that we have in square footage.
and it's also right up against Thomas Hayward Street. So you look at the buildings, you look at the houses like around it, and the height and the mass of it. And, you have a tiny little donut shop right across the street from it. And then across the street is a smaller house as well. So it's like it's taking into account the size of the premise, the size of the building on the size of the lot, and also what's around it.
Okay.
I don't even know how to begin with that, but yeah.
So I don't want to presume to think what everybody's going to vote, but I kind of tell which way the wind's blowing. I think it might be appropriate to get
it
an
would have been
updated
nice to
survey.
have this kind of a discussion before.
Sure, and I apologize that the survey issue didn't come up. I don't think we did discuss the sidewalk missing and some other portions, but I don't think we got quite this deep into it.
Yeah, but a half-story, the exterior wall has to be 3 feet or less to bury. And a half-story, the exterior wall supporting the roof shall be not more than 3 feet above the floor level.
Okay. So
And then it's 75% for the The area with headroom 5 feet or more occupies between 30 and 70% of the total floor area of the story directly beneath it.
Makes the two-story. So we're kind of in the same position we were in last month, unfortunately. We can take a vote if you'd like. Do we want to talk about the other conditions?
About the building type, so that we can build it properly if we don't know.
But the building type plays into the setback, and I believe the rear setback is what changes with the additional building type. Is that correct? Not the side setback?
I think the
Or does the side change as well?
I believe so. Looking at staff.
Yeah,
for
how long is the
clarification.
It's 25-foot setback for additional building type.
Okay.
Side or rear?
Rear.
Oh, yeah, we're fine on the
We're-
rear,
so
because that
we're-
lot
we're-
is so deep. So if it changes to a two-story, I think we're still fine
Technically, yeah.
with the setbacks, except for the somewhat vague massing and
Massing
scale.
and appropriate scale.
Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, all right, the things that we've done, initially, we had the plates lower. We were asked to raise them by the town. We've done that, and that helped. Now we've added massing, which over the width of the whole thing is a fair bit. So, and that was, I'm still not even exactly sure why we did that.
Yeah, when was the plate asked to be raised?
We had to move the head height of the window, I think, and so we had to move the plate height up to do that. Isn't that why?
Oh, that was just a little
That was-
shed on the end. We had asked you guys to lower the window
No,
to
all of the
7
windows
feet. All
upstairs.
the windows to 7 feet down. So the
Remember,
ones that
we
were
had-
up at 8, we're going to lower to 7, and then that would have left your shed roof in the same spot and would have added some header above the window.
That's on the side of the house.
Right.
I'm talking about all the windows upstairs. Like, look, if you look at the front elevation,
They're at
we have hung windows on the front with the overhang, not a boxed overhang, but the exposed rafter tail overhang. And what the discussion, I think, was that when you look on the drawing, which is one-dimensional, you don't see the top of the windows because the roof overhang comes down. And that's what was objected to, and therefore we raised the top of on that first go-around, not I know what we're talking about,
Yeah.
but the first go-around was that we asked her, because the roof, the walls come up, the roof goes like this, and it goes like this. So we had got those plate heights as low as we possibly could.
Well, the one drawing
The
we
house.
were looking at on Monday, the top of the window and the plate height were the same number, and you guys were going to have to
back,
address
right.
that because there was no room for a plate, let alone a header.
On the back, right.
Right, in a couple of spots. So it was kind of drawing quality and, it just didn't work between the windows
There's no
and
point in
the
arguing.
roof.
But I just want to be clear about building type. What,
Yeah.
Charlotte,
But 2 stories is a,
we submitted as
We submitted as additional.
additional building type. And I think that was driven mostly by the setback issues.
Well, we did that on
All the other houses.
all the other houses we did as 1.5 story. And I think we tried to keep it consistent, which is why we did it that way.
I mean, we're trying to keep, we're looking at this house as it's part of the Land and Oak community, even though there's a mobile home across the street from Thomas Hayward, and there's a little donut shop on the corner behind this house that we have to do.
I mean, it's part
I
of
think
Bluffton.
our big focus has been trying to keep the continuity within the subdivision there.
So we're kind of at 2 stories is allowed, but it's the question of the size and massing. I have kind of been through the process all right with the height because the footprint is small, and that's kind of the consideration for saving the live oak in my book and shifting over on the setback line. Was that 2 stories, that second story is going to kind of need a little bit more height to it just to be able to fit things inside of it. Because if you drop the bearing, you start needing more space or a smaller space inside. And that was kind of the consideration for me, was it saving the tree and this footprint is small.
Okay.
That doesn't mean there aren't other opinions up here. That's just kind of where I was feeling about it.
Scale-wise, do y'all have thoughts on it?
I agree with Lisa.
Debbie?
I feel the same way.
Okay.
Then there's the economic part of the equation that I'll bring up if nobody else wants to talk about it. But if you know, there's a objective opinion to be had about the massing and the size of the house, but you want me to go 1.5 stories. You want me to start scaling down. You know, there's the whole economic side to that. And that's, you know what that's all about. I mean, you know very well what that's all about. So, you know, that's a consideration, I think, that needs to be out there as well.
Well, I think our larger purview is how it fits into, I understand
The massing of the house has got to be that way because it's an east-west lot, right? The building's east-west. It's not north-south like all the other ones are. So if you look at the side elevations of the other houses, because those are north-south lots, the massing is probably greater than what you've got here. And all the other discussions we've had, it's not just the front elevation, it's all the elevations that really matter, right?
Sure.
So, you know, it's almost like we're being penalized here because now all of a sudden we're dealing with an east-west lot.
Well, I think there's considerations to think about when you're designing it from the beginning to make sure that the scale is appropriate to the site, to the neighboring properties, to Old Town as a whole. So we can take a vote on this based on the conditions that were there. We didn't really talk about the conditions. It sounds like most of them have been worked through besides some of the details that are missing, which most of the details, I think I feel comfortable with staff taking a look at, but I think the larger issue is the scale from the majority of the commission here.
And I'm sorry, just one clarification. The scale of the building envelope, not the scale of the lot.
Scale of the building mass.
Relative to the buildable area of the lot, not the lot size.
Just
as Howard said, this is probably on a square footage basis, one of the bigger lots out there. Sure. And this house is significantly smaller than the other ones that we've done out there. It's just that the buildable area of the lot is smaller than what we had on the other ones.
I think just the perception of the height of it in relation to Thomas Hayward, in relation to the neighboring lots is, Joe and I think have come to an understanding that we know that there's limitations and you have to go a certain height to make economic sense make sense, and you've got to get the square footage that makes sense for a lot like that. It sounds like the 3 others have issues with that. So massing is something that's a little larger than just conditions of you know, details that need to be worked out. What I'm saying is we can take a vote on it. I don't know how everybody will vote.
I guess also my question is, how, I don't understand how I address something that's subjective. I mean, are you suggesting we go back and start all over again? And I mean, if it were, you know, if there were something that said, hey, you can't be taller than X feet, and then we designed something that was taller than X feet, that's on us. We did that wrong. But if we've designed something that fits in the buildable area, and should be fine given the size of the lot, not the buildable area, I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to go back and try to make this palatable, I guess. So, because it is subjective. It's just, you know, you're saying, well, it's too big. Okay, what's too big? I don't know. Not this. So, I mean, you know, I can't fix these plans, and I've got a significant amount of money in these that I can't, you know, just saying, just trash it, walk away, start all over again. But then what's the target? What am I aiming for?
Who's your architect for this? See it anywhere?
Howard designed it when we have a CAD guy out in Colorado that
We have an architect that was involved with that.
So, you know about my mass and scale thought, and that is just something that's been part of this commission for the ages. I remember the first HPC we had, and mass and scale is talked about a lot. The top of bank, the survey bothers me. I just already see it, and I don't want to go down and, because you don't know until you know, but I think when you get that survey, it might do you better, and that may be great, but not knowing, you don't have that top of bank, and if it went straight across, which it sure appeared to be straight across when I walked it, and I do try to go to all these. I'm not just going to look at it on paper. I want this to work, but it's going to mess up your garage. It's going to mess, if it is the way I think it is. I don't know how top of bank changes for the better to give you more land, especially with erosion. So the survey bothers me, not knowing. I don't think any of us know what Beaufort County is going to do about the erosion. The weight of that house on a bank that's eroding, again, like you said, if it does crumble, we're all in a mess. And it kind of falls on us too, because we've allowed it, I feel, if we vote to approve this and then the worst happens, I hope the best happens, then who's pointing fingers at who at that point when we know from what Charlotte said that there is an issue with that erosion. So, I think it's an important lot. I absolutely believe you should be able to build on a lot if it's platted for a lot. But I go through my mind with other types of architects that aren't even local that have houses designed for our type of area, like Allison Ramsey, and you can buy them off the internet. They do have houses that can fit long lots, not as deep. So those are my two concerns, mainly that survey not knowing, and I do apologize. I wish I'd have picked it up last month, but I don't know that you could have addressed it in a month anyway.
Well, again, I mean, to the survey question, we can't build it if it's not in the right place. And the erosion, everything else, you would almost have to say, okay, it's now, if you're worried about the responsibility of what's going to happen, then all of a sudden HPC becomes almost like the building department where what if somebody...
I mean, it's not our liability, but we should have all the information. If you're going to walk in here and say that line is significantly changed, that is information we need to know. I apologize.
Again, that's me looking at it. That's not the surveyor saying anything.
Can we give them some direction just on the height being too tall in your feelings? Is that mostly on that right side against the street? If it had some two-story element kind of more over towards where the front porch is that still okay? Is it mostly the height against Thomas Hayward, or?
Sure. I wish it looked more like, the Hayward house is a 1.5-story house. Genesis Construction is a 1.5-story house. I rode all through some older homes that are probably legally non-conforming, but some that have been built through HPC. It kind of goes with what you were saying on a 1.5-story. I mean, if that would have been a 1.5-story after I read through your narrative and was all excited and I get to the plan, I'm like, it just looks big. And it's not big because it's only 900 square feet base square footage. I mean, it's only 1,600-ish square feet, which even more reason to take in consideration driving into, you're driving in and that is the first thing you're going to see. And the side of it is going to be what everyone sees. And it just feels overbearing. And I'm trying to be, I don't know, dormers or a different, the roof line's different, or more of that second floor goes into the roof, to me, calms that house with the other houses on that cul-de-sac.
Yeah, and I was going to suggest that, just looking at the garage, it's on a knee wall, and it has popped up a dormer to get better head height. I mean, I think exploring something like that may help ease the massing issue or the massing concern.
Exactly. If your second floor looked more like your garage, second floor, in a way, I think it lowers it in a way. And it appears, it could still be two-story, but it appears, this whole additional building type, I mean, there is a house, I'm sure there is a type of house that fits on this lot in our UDO. And a lot of people do go to the additional building type because you just want to do something a little different, and it's in our UDO, so we have to grant it. But I didn't have time to really look and see what the building type actually is that would fit on this lot, other than additional building type.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with additional.
No, I'm saying it's part of the UDO and people use it and you have every right to use it.
Yeah, I mean, the first three were all additional building type, and we did that to be able to take advantage of the rear setback.
Do we have any other feedback on the scale? Suggestions?
I like what Lisa says. I agree with what Lisa says. I feel the same way.
Okay.
All right, so what we would like to do then is table it. And let us go back and work on that massing and scale. I think I understand what you're looking for now.
And also maybe an updated survey.
I'll see what I can do about that.
Okay. Yes.
Who manages the county? Is it us? Is it the town? Who gets the county to come look at this?
We can work with Watershed to.
Okay, because I don't, that is going to put you, I mean, if that's something that Watershed says we need to have planned. So I think you're still in that window by the time they have it and you come back, maybe it's all going to be in line. That was just my last question.
Okay.
I will motion to table the application.
Second.
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're going for another certificate of appropriateness for 5 Lawton Street. Sorry for the delay, guys.
All righty.
Well, I want to say, this is really important. I think it's very important. I'm thrilled to be up here. And things like this make our town, there's a method to our madness. And I think we have to be very careful on things so our town continues to be great, So I don't feel bad about tabling.
No, I don't either.
Application. It's just not right. So I'm sorry.
Thank you. So the item before us now is 5 Lawton Street. This is a request to demolish a building approximately built in 1950. It is a non-contributing storage shed located on the property that is known as Eccentricities. It's in the Neighborhood Center Historic District. There you see the property located on the north side of Lawton between Calhoun and Boundary. Here's a survey showing the shed located in the rear yard of the business. And the intention is to demolish this structure and build another carriage house for commercial purposes. Here are photos of the existing shed, a combination of concrete block, wood, corrugated panels, a little bit of everything, to be honest. We did look at this for potential for contributing resource, but it doesn't meet those qualifications. There are 2 criteria to consider, and our findings are that this is not, again, not a contributing resource or eligible for one. It does comply with the applications manual. You may consider approving the application as submitted, denying or having conditions on this application. Staff does recommend that it be demolished, and so we are recommending approval without conditions.
Okay, do we have any questions for staff or the applicants?
I was going to ask, was this in the future plans of contributing resources? And you said no, so that was the only question I had.
Okay. Any If there's no further discussion, I'll look for a motion.
I move, go ahead.
Motion to approve. Like the demolish of the non-contributing shed located at 5 Lawton.
I'll second.
2 seconds. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is passed. Thank you. Our last certificate of appropriateness, 34 Thomas Hayward Street.
Good evening. So our next item is for the Nellie and Leroy Brown Cottage, a contributing resource located at number 34 Thomas Hayward House, or Thomas Hayward Street. This is a request for the applicant, Jason Alexander, as the owner, for approval for a COFA to allow for the demolition of the 1,054 square foot single-family detached residence, which is commonly known as the Nellie and Leroy Brown Cottage, located in the Old Town Bluffton Historic District, Zone Neighborhood Conservation. This is the location and zoning map. You'll see where the red pin is. That's the location of the house facing Thomas Hayward Street. Showing you a little bit of history of the house. This is the photograph from the 2008 survey that we did many years ago now. The house was built in 1942. It's been unaltered since it was constructed. Went out a couple weeks ago, took a new photograph from the same spot, showing the current condition of the house, as you can see in this photograph. Under this particular application, you have to review criteria listed under the UDO section 318.5B1. Staff believes that each of those criteria has been met as outlined in the staff report. You also can look at section 318.5B2. HPC in these instances may delay a decision regarding demolition for a period not to exceed 180 days. If approval, staff is making these recommendations that any future buildings will require separate certificates of appropriateness prior to construction of any additional buildings on the site. HPC, at your discretion, may also require deconstruction of the historic building components for reuse. The demolition shall also comply with any demolition guidelines approved by town council, which includes documentation, drawings, photographs, archival materials, etc. And the demolition does not remove its designation as a contributing resource to the Old Town Bluffton Historic District. Your purview tonight, you can approve the application as submitted, you can approve the application with conditions, you can deny the application as submitted, or you may choose to exercise the option under 318.5B2 to postpone the designation for a designated period not to exceed 180 days. I'm here to answer any staff questions that you might have. The applicant is also here to answer questions that you might have. And I apologize for my voice tonight. It's been a long day.
I actually have a couple of questions. In regards to the demolition of this cottage. I read through the notes. I saw that it said unhealthy, etc. So there's no way that this property can be preserved in any way, shape, or form?
I can only go by what I'm not an expert in health issues. I can only defer to those who are experts.
Okay.
So I have to defer to them on that point.
The next question is what happens after the 180 days?
So at 180 days, you have to make a decision to approve the application as submitted, approve with conditions, deny it. So that 180 day period in the UDO, that 180 day period is to be used for, and I'll just read it to you. During the postponement, the Historic Preservation Commission shall consider what alternatives to demolition may exist. Consideration by the Historic Preservation shall include alternatives for preservation of the structure, either in whole or in part, including consultation with civic groups, interested private citizens, other boards or agencies, both public and private. And if other alternatives for preservation cannot be identified, including relocation, the preservation of the contributing resource is clearly in the interest of the general welfare of the community, investigation of the potential of the town to acquire the property. So that's language in 318.5B2 A and B.
Any further questions? Any questions for the applicant?
I have a question.
Does anyone, yeah.
Yes.
I'll bring the applicant up.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jason Alexander, my wife Carrie and I purchased the property in March. Started down the road about 16 months ago, so there's a pretty long history, even though the acquisition wasn't until March. So a lot of the work that you saw in the report, mold reports and things, have occurred before we acquired it.
Okay.
So two things I want to mention. One, we did not start this process intending to not have that structure there. We intended for it to be a cottage for us to live in while we built our home. So this wasn't a foregone conclusion. If there was a way to keep this house, we would have liked to have kept it too. The second thing that's I think is important, at least to us, is we're currently without insurance on it, on that property liability, none. Which means our umbrella policy for our other assets are at risk as long as that building's on that property, as long as we own that building on that property. So from a time frame standpoint, I can tell you, and I appreciate Glenn and actually Charlotte and Sam helping kind of move the application through. We're very concerned about the time frame because of our insurance, our liability risk. But I can answer any questions. I don't know if you've been in the property. I don't know if you've looked at the pictures. I walked in the property. When we put it under contract, we couldn't look at it before going under contract. Walked in it, and the other people I was with turned around and walked out because you will go right through the floor, the ceilings falling in, the roof's falling in, all the support structures falling in. There's not a piece that's dry in that building, not one piece of wood. I would say 10 years ago, in fact, I had not seen that 2008 picture until recently. If it looked like that, it's salvageable. If it looks like it looks now, there's just nothing you can point to in the building that would be retained. I don't know what historic value it would have. I'd love to have it. It's 2 acres. We can build a house. We're not going to build a house on that spot anyway. So it's not an effort to get that house down to build something in that same location. That's not the case at all. But I'm not an expert either. I brought in experts, mold, asbestos, structural engineer. Structural engineer could not go in the house because it wasn't safe structurally. But he did crawl underneath, determined everything was falling in, and he could tell from the roof that it was collapsing as well.
So if the property is demolished, what are your plans with that right there? To do a replica or what exactly?
We talked about that. That's not, I would, but that's not something the town would dictate to us. Mm-hmm. We haven't actually started any plans. I will answer the question by saying we want to build our home on it. I would like to divide it into, it's 2 acres. I'd like to divide it into 4 lots. I have 2 adult boys, my wife and I. So we want to have a place. You know, the dreams of a family compound that'll never happen. That's kind of what we would like to have. But I want to keep the property. I have no interest in having 16, no offense to the earlier presentation. I don't want to have 16 small lots on a 2 acre lot. I want my home there and I want land. And you just can't find that, obviously, in Old Town very easily.
You've presented a lot of compelling documentation about mold and fungus and obviously pictures of the place. Did you consult at all like a rehabilitation company like a Metters or a Repurposed Savannah to get a letter from them saying like, listen, our job is to like rehabilitate structures that are this old and this decrepit, and we find that this is nearly impossible, there's nothing to be saved. Like, to me, that if you're consulting experts and you're getting, you know, expert documentation, did you think, was there the opportunity to approach one of those type of companies to get a letter from them stating what they see about the house?
We could keep going, with bringing in experts, but between the mold expert saying, you're not going to get the mold off, even if the wood was salvageable, you're not going to get the mold out from a safety standpoint. The asbestos has to, as I understand it, not somebody else might understand it, the asbestos has to be remediated before you can do anything. You can't remediate the asbestos because you can't get in the building. There's no, structurally, you can't fix the structure to fix the asbestos problem, and you can't fix the asbestos because structurally it's not sound. So between mold, asbestos, structural engineer, who again, he did not go on the inside, but he looked on the outside and said, I'm just going to tell you, you're not going to salvage this thing. I went in there, and again, you can pull up pictures if you want. There's just not a dry, you can put your hand through every piece of wood. Somebody lived in this house, by the way, until March, which I don't understand how that was even possible. But I could put my hand
Somebody
through.
did live there.
Somebody lived in that house.
Right. Somebody lived there.
Yeah, should not have lived there. When a mold expert goes in while she's living there and says nobody should live there, she was still living there. I didn't own the property, so it wasn't my issue to resolve. There's not a piece that would be salvageable just from it would crumble in your hand kind of.
I'm just saying it would be nice, you got all these, you got all these opinions and you pay for experts to do that. It would have been nice to see something from.
Well, I just progressed it to the point where I said, it's not salvageable. I can get, I could have taken it further, but what I have, I can't do anything with that property. I can't do anything with that building. I will never walk in that building again, no matter what's done to it, no matter what remediation would be done. It's black.
Okay.
I mean, everything in there is solid black, and mold it's hanging down from the ceiling.
So when you brought the property and you saw it and you said, oh, we can live in here while we do,
No, I didn't.
while we do construction, I thought you said.
They would not let us in.
But in the beginning, when you bought the property and you saw it, and you.
From the outside?
And you thought to yourself, like, we could potentially live in here during construction. So you saw what the building looked like and you thought you could potentially live in it.
Before or after I put it under contract. I did not see it before I put it under contract. I was not allowed inside. The owners.
You saw it from the outside.
Yes. But you can't see. I mean, it looked like it needed a roof.
There's been quite a bit of sagging on the front porch since you've purchased it, I think.
I just purchased it in March.
Oh, okay, okay.
No, I don't know. I mean, maybe. No, the front
Oh, I
porch.
thought you said 16 months before.
I
Probably
put
the
a
last.
contract on it. There was a title issue for 14, 15 months. So I put in a contract last spring, 24. It didn't close until, don't quote me on the month, but March of 25. So along that way, we determined, I'm looking at Glenn, because Glenn and I talked about how we would salvage. Can we move it? We had a conversation about moving it to a different spot because I left out one part. There is no foundation. It's sitting on concrete. There's nothing in the ground. It's just sitting on pieces of concrete about this big. So we talked about moving it, which I know is an issue to do, but it wouldn't survive moving, even if you did move it. So we talked about a replica, and Glenn said you can do a replica if you want. That's not really the town's, as I understood it. That doesn't allow it to continue to be a historical building if we build a replica. We might. We haven't decided because I didn't want to go any further on the property development, with a home design until we knew this, the answer to
But
this.
you had due diligence before you closed.
I had a year.
And, and your realtor knows how I feel about this. I am passionate about our contributing resources. And I've been in the rate. I was in the Graves house, the Garvin Garvey house, Joni Hayward's house. It had no floor before she did it. And I did hear that you really wanted to keep it. So it gave me great hope until I saw this demolition on it, because I do think if you really, and I don't want to call out anyone sitting here, but there is someone here who put a lot of money into rehabbing a building that she probably should have asked to be demolished, but she didn't, because that is the quaintness of our town. And you know, one of the letters said, put a monument, you know, I kind of joked, put a monument, say, look at what we're demolishing every part of our history in our town. It just seems easy. It shouldn't be easy. This should not be an easy process. So I'm not beating up on you, but anyone who comes while I'm here on a demolishing, this should be a hard path to go through, because we can whittle away to not very much if we keep demolishing structures. Metters is, you know, that's where I wanted to go. Where was that next step? Like, okay, guys, I want to redo this. Where's the next step on how can we? And I think when I was on council, we put that 180-day reprieve in there because of situations like this, because the applicant may not have the love for the house like you do. And we want that kind of breather and get all hands on board to find an insurance company who can get you liability. Maybe yours can't, but maybe some can. To talk to a Metters, to do what is it called?
An assessment?
Some kind of a condition assessment. And really do what we can, because just saying demolish it, okay, how many have we demolished this year?
I'm not just saying demolish it. This has been 16 months.
No, I'm saying for us to say.
I'm absolutely, we did not want to be standing here we did not want to. We're moving to Bluffton because of all the things you speak of.
Yeah.
If you walked through the house with me 2 days ago and said what you're saying now, it would mean something quite different than, I promise you, if you walk through it, you will say this thing can't survive. It's that bad.
I've been through many that were, and I've been in that house, and I know the young lady who lived there. And she.
Absolutely.
Have you been in there recently?
I was in there before you put it under contract.
It's not, I will never walk in that house again, no matter what is done to it. It is that bad.
But talking to companies, I've talked to a few architects this week, you know, it's funny, and several have said it can be done, you just got to do it. You know, you got to ask those questions. What can be done to remediate mold? I've sold a house with asbestos. It is a process, and it's a way to do it, and you're going to have to do it if you demolish it anyway. It's going to be really strict.
Yeah.
But
I've already investigated that. I know it has to be.
So that is something that's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
So I really pushed years ago to put this little window of, let's step back. You've talked to staff. Now you're up in front of a voting commission, which I guess it goes to appellate court or something. It doesn't even go to council.
I will not own it for 180 days more with that house on it. I can't, I will not put my entire retirement at risk, which is what I'm doing right now. And I didn't mention, there have been I have cameras up. There are lots of people visiting that property, including one of the previous occupants. And every time that camera goes off, no matter what time, and it goes off several times a day because birds and other things set it off, I freak out. Because if someone goes in there and gets hurt, they can sue me and get every asset I've got. I cannot take that risk.
That's unfortunate.
Completely.
That is very unfortunate.
10 years ago, I don't think we would not be having this conversation. That building would have been, based on that picture, that was more than 10 years ago. I think it was salvageable. But it is not salvageable now. I don't want to do it, but if we're going to be the ones to own that property, we can't wait to make a decision.
You know what, maybe I'm misunderstanding. Was the property purchased under an LLC or a company?
No, my wife and I.
Okay.
It's us. And we want, I didn't even mention the details on the title. We went through a year of 21 people staking claim. We would not have done all that if we did not want this to be our home. This is not a financial investment from we're not developers. We're just trying to build our home. And wanted that to either be a cottage or my wife's art studio. That was the plan.
But it's more at stake here than it just being a contributing structure to the town of Bluffton. It also has to do with that property was a part of our Gullah Geechee culture. So, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, I'm not in favor of demolishing it.
I'm not either, but it's,
I feel that I feel that other things need to be looked at, whether that's repurpose Savannah or whatever else, to see what can be done on
I'd
that
like,
piece of
yeah,
property.
I'd like to hear from a rehabilitation expert.
And that's just me.
Yeah.
You guys can look at me any way you want.
I would ask that you walk through it before you have that
Our
opinion.
culture and our history and our communities are being wiped away. And it's time for someone to stand up and say enough is enough. Regardless. I understand what you're saying, and it's unfortunate that you've been put in that situation. That due diligence should have been done before you signed.
It's gonna end up with the developer. Because I've already been that's who's trying to buy it from me, and I don't, they're gonna build everything around it, and you're gonna have a house with I want a home. I don't want a neighborhood on that property.
I mean, I'm absolutely sympathetic to that cause. I am.
It's not a cause.
Absolutely.
Please use your choice words a little better.
I apologize. Just thinking of how do we move forward and what are the next steps that we want to see. I've seen the historic renovations be done on some of these projects. My wife was involved in the Bluffton United Methodist Church, the parsonage before. And that thing, I mean, every single stick was replaced from the inside out as they were going through. And, a lot of the framing had to be swapped, and that was like pretty decent to start. And if you have to remove a lot of the paneling to do the asbestos remediation, I don't see how the thing really just doesn't collapse. So as we're kind of thinking about what are the next steps, what do we want to see from them as far as who's saying that you can or can't do something with the property?
Well, as I understood it from mold and asbestos standpoint, the asbestos has to be removed before any work could be done on the property, on the building. That is state, federal, someone has a rule to that. This is from the asbestos person, that can't be done with the building in the condition it's in. You can't get in there and do that work safely, and you can't do any work until the asbestos is out. It's like a chicken and an egg conversation.
I got a really good asbestos company out of Savannah that just did our post office, so if you need that number, I'm sure they will come out here. Yeah.
Commissioner Solga, go ahead.
Yeah, just, trying to stay in this lane. I'm trying to stay out of my real estate lane on all the things, due diligence, and it is really hard. I have sold many houses with asbestos. I have been part of seeing a lot of houses rehabbed. And thank goodness for the Mangledorfs in the Methodist Church. Or that house would have been gone because we were told at the time that beetles were eating it. Every minute another board was being eaten. I mean, it was on the path of being demolished. I'm sorry, I've got a thing. But I have a question for.
Well, let me mention one thing. Glenn, I just thought of this actually, and Glenn may know more, or Charlotte may know more about this than me. When we were looking at the property, we were told the town was interested or was considering the property. And so I don't know, I don't remember who I asked. I really don't, but I asked somebody in the town, look, if the town wants to buy it, I'm getting out of the way. I have no interest whatsoever in trying to get into something,
The town wanted it before you came, and we would have rehabbed it, absolutely, but the seller wouldn't take our price. We made an offer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that can be full knowledge now. I just really want to, this is a hard decision to make.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to walk away from here and say demolish without knowing the other side. So how can we, and how can the town perhaps help in this to get people out there, to give us,
So you do have an option.
I know that option, but I don't think it has to be 180 days.
No,
I
so-
don't want to cause hardship on
Yep,
him.
so
but-
your so the language of the PUD says not to exceed 180 days. You can vote tonight or make a motion tonight to delay a decision, and you can pick any time period up to, but not exceeding 180 days. So 30, 60, 90, 120, 180 would be your time periods, and you can decide amongst yourselves. You just can't go over 180 days.
What do you think it would take to, and does it fall on us? Like, should we workshop, should we roll up our sleeves, which I'm willing to do, or does it fall on the applicant to go to, and I'm not saying use them, please know that, they're just the most recent. The Savannah Company, they're fabulous. They know every inch of our town, preserve Savannah. Metters has done miracles with the right family.
Right, and Metters
Might
right
not
now
have been
is
in
working
town
on
when
the
the
Sarah
right
Riley
family,
Hooks Cottage.
the Squire Pope Cottage. Who,
Metters is also doing Sarah Riley Hooks.
okay, how do we do that? Because I don't want it to go, oh, well, we did nothing, and 90 days is gone.
We as staff can make that introduction between the applicant and Metters if you choose to go with Metters.
Yeah, we're not pushing them.
I can't say who's,
Yeah.
I just know that Metters has a track record in town, and then set a time period to have that discussion. Metters may come back and say yes, no, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I will defer to their expertise in that, but that's an option that you have.
That's what I wanted to, I was hoping I would have seen in some of those documents, hearing the want to keep it. Okay,
Well,
you're saying I can't, but can I? But if it's a hardship, at least you would have been told that, and I don't.
Well, let me clarify.
No.
We wanted to keep it until we got the information we got, which caused us not to be comfortable keeping it anymore. So just to clarify, we are not comfortable keeping that house anymore. Based on having seen it, a mold report, an asbestos report, and a structural engineer report. I know you're saying there's other things we can do, but I added that first piece. We walked through it. That was enough for us to know we aren't going to be comfortable utilizing that building for a purpose that involved people anymore. We were comfortable based on conversations with mold, asbestos, structural, and seeing it for ourselves. So I don't know, I'm not saying we wouldn't, but even if someone else came in and said it could be done, I don't know, that'll answer your questions, but I don't know that would change what my wife and I would do.
And we would never force, that's not our
Yeah.
role to force that on you. That is your personal, like feeling of it. I just know over the 20, since, gosh, we've had a historic district since 1986, and I have seen homes, and I wouldn't tell you, I have seen that house. I would never not while you've owned it. I haven't been one of those people on your Ring doorbell.
For 10 or 20 years, it's just been, it's got vinyl siding on it. It has massive holes in the roof. It's been in the condition it's in for probably at least a decade. I know for sure, because I talked to a neighbor.
I need to know from a company that does it all the time. That's my want. To say, thank you. I mean, I feel better about it. What a hypocrite I'd be if I just voted to demolish it based off of one, I got to protect. I want to protect this town and the historic district, and I'm passionate about it. I pushed for the town to buy it, and the town would have figured it out. I mean, we seem to rehab better than, well, with the exception of a few.
Well, I think if nothing else, financially, the town can probably do more than any individual could to make it happen too. I mean, there is at some point, again, we're not there. We're not, how much is it to rehab? Ours is, it's not, having seen it and having talked to folks, it's not something we would feel comfortable utilizing for human occupancy.
And I would understand that now, but I mean, we don't have it, and I'm not going to beat the horse.
Yeah. No,
I need to see from someone else, and if it's postponing it for 90 days or whatever, and let's get you some insurance, let's look at other insurance companies. I mean, try to
My umbrella
help
won't
you.
cover with another insurer anyway, so it doesn't,
And see,
it
I
doesn't
can't believe
help.
you could close and not have insurance on the property.
I don't have a mortgage, so I don't have to have it.
All right, so it sounds
That's
like.
why it's not just, there's a lot, our liability is massive.
That doesn't fall on our, I mean, I'm
no.
sorry, but
No,
that's
I-
not
That's
our.
unfortunate.
That's not.
The
us.
decision I think you're gonna make is probably gonna cause us to step away, which is not your problem, but
Absolutely.
So again, your options tonight are you can approve as submitted, you can approve with conditions, you could deny, or you can take that option for under 318.5B2, postpone the decision for a designated period not to exceed 180 days.
And may I add, I think it might be possible as well, it's from what I'm hearing and what I'm interpreting, that there needs to be outreach with a company such as Matters or Repurpose Savannah. And that's something I think could be done within the next few weeks prior to the next HPC meeting in August. And let's.
that was gonna be my question is what, and you
Yeah,
just said,
let's
what's
see
the
what they
purpose of the delay? Is the delay to have a company, I wouldn't know who to choose, so you could choose, doesn't matter
Yeah,
to me.
that would be.
Assess it, and is that, I'm a little gun shy just because, and I'm not blaming you guys, but I don't want to go meeting. I can't keep it.
And we
that
don't
long.
want you to wait
So,
another
yeah,
2 months.
If I know what would make you comfortable, if it's company X, whatever it is, doesn't matter to me, them assessing it, then if they say it can be done, then I would have to decide, well, I can't be the one to do it, and I'll go do, figure something else out. Or it can't be done, and then you have, I think, the information it sounds like you're looking for.
Is 30 days adequate?
I don't think that would be enough time.
Well, do we have to set a period, or can we just?
You have to set a period.
We have to set
All
a
we're
period.
asking is an assessment from a company.
But we could set several periods, and we could set 30 days,
It says 60 and it can
I'd
take
say
less.
6. It could take less.
up to 100.
Can we say whatever time period you want, or until the report is obtained in the next HPC meeting? So if the report takes 3 weeks, then.
Sure, and that's, if it comes up underneath.
I just want to make sure I don't get the report, if that's the route we go, and then there's another step. I would want to know that now, because I can't wait.
Able to ask, for you to actually think about what you would like to put on that property or see there?
I'll answer you. You mean my personal, my home? I mean, that's it. I have no interest in, like I
Which could be
said,
massive.
And that would
No.
be, that would actually be separate COFAs for
Yeah,
that.
I get it.
size
that
of
would
the home.
have to
I
come
would
back to you
say-
anyway.
My wife would shoot me if it was over 3,500 square feet.
Well, you saw the Hayward Street's very important. It's very 1.5 stories.
Yeah.
Don't
No, we
put
did
it in
not
your
want to go to,
narrative.
what is the mega, there's a term I've heard.
Mega
used around.
mansion.
Yeah, we don't want to,
That's
we don't
not-
want a big house. I don't want a big house. I bought a house, just in case, because I knew this was going to take time, we bought a house around the corner that's currently 1,800 square feet. We're not interested in a mega mansion.
Can I ask a question? If we
Yes.
vote to postpone it for, say, 60 days, and it takes 3 weeks or however long that's past the due date for the August submittal, can we make a condition to say, even though it's past that, it can still come before the HBC at the next meeting? Because I don't want to put it, to his
Yeah,
point, I don't want you to
I'd
delay
appreciate that.
2
I think we
months.
could probably get it on.
Can you get it on, just table it?
And then
if it
just
doesn't
add,
convert?
or
Yeah.
put it on and then just add the report when it comes in? Okay,
I think we can do that.
okay. Then
Now, does anybody know who would be able to get it done quicker?
repurpose Savannah
Me or them? Or y'all?
quick.
I'll pay for it.
Repurpose has proven
Yeah, they're very
themselves.
quick and they're
We
very.
can,
You'll
we can help with that.
Okay.
Staff will
I
work
want
with
you to
them
have
for
what y'all need to be comfortable. I'm not.
Sure.
that. Yeah, and staff can work with them to get that for you.
Okay.
Well, I move that we postpone the decision for a period of 60 days, but to go on and put a placeholder on next month's HPC if we can get the report back within that time.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any further discussion?
Can I ask one question before you?
I'm sorry, let me.
I think we have to, well, okay, yes.
Yeah,
Well,
we have a
just
motion on the
clarification.
table.
Fundamental question,
We
do
have a
they
motion on
believe
the
that
table.
it is valid? That's the fundamental question that's the question we're asking them.
We're asking for a recommendation, I think, for
will ask for their assessment.
They'll know.
Whatever
Okay.
their assessment is that,
Okay,
that's their job.
okay.
And we have passed, once they've done that far, I would go back and look at the Square Poke Cottage. It was bad.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can kind of get an idea of it if that is who Glenn and Charlotte are gonna call. They just have been here, they've done it, they
Yeah.
know, they
But
believe
to
in our
clarify, I
district.
don't know that we would, if they came back and said it can be done, you have the information you need to say no, but.
Yeah, you'll have to decide.
I'll go
your-
in, I'll have to go in a different direction because I'm not.
This is all part of discussion.
Right.
Oh,
In
yeah, we're
between our-
discussing.
Okay.
Discussing.
Any further?
So the time starts tomorrow, and y'all will keep us updated, and whatever we can do to help, I don't know,
We do have to vote on it.
oh, we're still discussing.
Yes, sure.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for the vote.
we're still discussing. I'll call my own question.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion is passed to postpone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Historic District monthly update.
I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, she wasn't here last month. We should keep her a little longer.
Yeah.
So we have Angie Castellan does a great job of providing reviews of our site feature permits, and she's put together a list here of items from this past month. And we've had everything from re-roofing, quite a few, several of those rather, signage and fencing. So we like to share that with you every month so that you're aware of what's going on outside of our COFAs. And with that, I don't have anything else, but can answer any questions you might have.
I have a question, not about this subject, but it's under other discussion. So when we met with y'all about just to go over the agenda, my one question on Meriwether was, why are we now letting them put the HVAC unit under the stairs when we told how many the month before they had to move it?
yeah.
Should we change that in our minutes? Should we re-vote on some of this? Because now we've learned you don't have to, it's not commercial.
I can
How
go-
do we rectify the
Yeah,
motions
that's a
we
good
made?
question.
I did contact one of the applicants. I think there were some that did not have HVAC under stairwells. I will go back through each application.
There were 4.
There were 4. I will go back through all of them and then contact the applicant that is not a requirement.
Motion, or that condition is not required? Okay.
And should we reflect it in minutes for future people who check minutes to see? I mean, should we do it something as a commission on that?
It probably should be included in the minutes.
We have it in these. we
This
can have
minute,
Well,
in
it's in these
this,
minutes.
in this meeting.
So she's taking that.
For Richardson, yeah.
Yeah.
I just would hate for someone to come back on that, and because it just seemed to be that in your the tree canopy.
Right.
Those were the 2 new things, and it was most of them ones. I thought it was maybe.
Right, every other
Might have been all of
application,
them.
yeah.
Yeah, that
Most of
was-
those applications came in with the HVAC under the stairs.
Right. It's a pretty common place to put it, and I had asked the building department after the meeting about it, and they said, well, it's a commercial code issue, not a residential, so.
Would you consider short-term rentals commercial? And I don't think that.
I believe they're reviewed under residential code.
Okay, so you would review it, their use would change, they're not commercial, so you review it under a residential code.
Correct.
As long as
And-
it's
and I-
not larger than a duplex, you're still in the residential code.
I just would hate that to pop up and we never other than a phone call just to show it. Okay, thank you.
Sure, no, thank you. Any other questions for Sarah?
I just had to say congratulations to the town and town staff for the Preservation Service Award you received last month.
Yeah, nice job.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
We're trying to give away money.
All right.
I found that's the hardest thing, to give away money.
I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Any
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
How was your conference?
Charlotte, you're asking her conference. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it was great. It was wonderful. I've never been, it was in Providence, Rhode Island. Oh my, did you all do it? No, and,